Well, hello and welcome to episode 172 of Drink the Movies. I'm Brian here, as always, with Michaela. And Michaela, if you go out onto the streets right now, be it in Boston, Massachusetts, or maybe anywhere on the planet, and you say, how many Academy Awards has Martin Scorsese won? The answer would be, I don't know, a lot. People would be like, I don't know, 3, 4, 10, 12, 16. I think he's been nominated for 16. But fact of the matter is, Michaela, he's only won one, and it's for The Departed.
It is for The Departed, and
The
we can talk
Departed.
about The Departed. We can say that is deserved or not. We're going to talk about it. It's definitely deserved for The Departed. For The Departed.
Hmm.
But he's been kind of one of these people that the Academy loves to hate. He does all these really amazing epic films that get so many accolades and nods, but then never quite take the trophy home. Certainly not for Best Picture. So,
It's
so
it's the
we're gonna do
Leonardo
it.
DiCaprio of all of it,
It
really. He just
it,
needs
it
to be in your
really
movie,
is.
and then you get to win an Academy Award instead of him. That's how it works. Yeah, because it's weird, right? Like you tell me Martin Scorsese, and yeah, I will think of The Departed, but I mean, nominated for Raging Bull, The Last Temptation of Christ, Goodfellas, The Age of Innocence, Gangs of New York, and The Aviator all happen, before The Departed, and then finally breaks through with the win here. And The Departed is was a pretty big deal. It's still very highly regarded in terms of films, and Martin Scorsese films. So
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a remake to boot, which is kind of unheard of, right? It was based on a 2002 Hong Kong film called Infernal Affairs, and it's loosely based
mm,
on the real life Boston Winter Hill Gang, which I did not know until researching for this. But I'd seen Infernal Affairs. If you liked The Departed, you should definitely watch that Hong Kong film. It's amazing in its own right. Really, just this story I just find super compelling. It's really great, and we're going to talk about all of that. I'm so excited.
that's right, absolutely. So why don't we do this, Michaela? Let's go ahead and grab ourselves a bottle of rye whiskey, some cherries, all the things that you're going to find in your local Irish pub, there, Boston, Massachusetts way. We'll put together a cocktail, and we'll be right back to whip up this week's drink.
So Brian, when I was
Hmm.
looking at cocktail options for this movie, there are a lot of things that we could have done because The Departed, obviously, it takes place in Boston.
Hmm.
There's Boston's a really old city from an American standpoint, right? I mean, it's
Right.
if any of our listeners from Europe are like laughing as we say that, but I really wanted to get like a classic old school kind of cocktail that also didn't taste horrible because
Hmm.
our palates have changed over the course of the last 300 years.
That's
As
true.
well as the quality of our spirits. So we found this cocktail. It's called a Ward 8. It's a pretty old drink. I think it's from 1898 is what
Hmm.
the old Wikipedia said.
That's what
Um,
Wikipedia says, yeah. So it's probably
yeah.
true.
And
Yeah, that's right.
so I was trying to imagine like this main baddie, right? Jack Nicholson's character, Frank Costello, like sitting in a bar thinking about the rat that's in his mob group, right? And
Hmm.
thinking about all the ways in which he's going to hurt this person when he figures out who it is and what he would be drinking. And I think this probably did is it may have been up there, maybe not. It's
Could
possible.
have
I don't know.
could have been up there. If you don't just want to have a cranberry juice, maybe the Ward 8 cocktail is where you're going to go. And apparently the Ward 8 takes its name from like this like historically like corrupt like area of Boston where your political favor could be bought and or fought for, or however you want to go about garnering your own political favor. But that is where the cocktail comes from. That's where I guess it originated, and that's what we're going to be mixing up today. Now, this is like sometimes, Michaela, we do like Prohibition era cocktails. Those are kind of, all the rage, or you'll see like speakeasies that'll feature like Prohibition era cocktails. 1898, that is pre-Prohibition, so we haven't even we haven't even gotten there yet. We haven't even stopped the sale of liquor yet. So I guess this is going to be, one of the older cocktails in terms of that, especially here in the United States. So let's go ahead and mix one of these up. It's pretty simple to do. Into a shaker tin with some ice goes 2 ounces of rye whiskey, a half ounce of lemon juice, a half ounce of orange juice, and a bar spoon of grenadine. Go ahead and shake that with some ice. strain it into like a chilled cocktail glass. I used a coupe glass. You could use like a Nick and Nora glass. You could totally just use a regular rocks glass, which is probably how they would have served it. You could throw a maraschino cherry in there and enjoy. Now, Michaela, I went ahead and made this cocktail, got the pictures of it up for it. And in the article, it talks about how when this cocktail was originally made, they used to serve it with a little Massachusetts state flag in there. And I said, that's pretty fun. That's pretty fun. I should get a little Massachusetts state flag. But then I thought about it and I said, nah, I don't need to pay homage to the entire great state of Massachusetts. I need to pay homage to The Departed. So I made a little Departed flag, stuck that in mine. You can see the pictures of it on the social medias and the website, and then sip and enjoy it. The flag, totally optional. It did not change the flavor of this, I don't think, really. But this was pretty good. It's a little rough, being that old, right? It's not what we would
Mm.
consider as like a highly, put together cocktail like we'd go out to a cocktail lounge and get right now. But it was pretty good.
Yeah.
But definitely dated.
Oh, for sure. I mean, this is not, when you go to a like a real nice speakeasy nowadays, you're gonna have a much more refined taste. But I felt like this definitely paid homage to the movie in a way where it is a little rough, right? The
Mm-hmm.
It's very boozy. The lemon and orange kind of brings a nice citrusiness to it. It's not super tart. I was a little worried. Anytime we use lemon juice, I'm always like, I hope I get this right, because too much lemon juice can just ruin things for me.
Hmm.
But the orange kind of adds the sweetness there. And then the rye whiskey, I'm not really very versed in whiskeys, right?
Hmm.
And so I wonder like why we would choose a rye here, and what the difference would be really from a regular whiskey to a rye whiskey. And that was one thing I wanted your thoughts on, Brian, because
Sure.
we had some in my house. My husband's become quite the whiskey drinker these days. So I was able to do exactly what this was, but I was like, I wonder why we picked rye instead.
That's right. Yeah, your husband collects whiskeys like Costello collects microchips, I guess, in the film for sure.
Right.
Yeah. My guess as to why they would have used rye whiskey is because really, like, you think of bourbon whiskey, which is largely like a corn mash here in the United States. That really didn't come about until the Great Depression when, wanted to boost the sales of corn here in the United States. So rye whiskey would have been probably in the area the predominant whiskey type at the time. You would have either had this or some sort of like blended Canadian whiskey or potentially Scotch. Irish whiskey coming over from overseas. I don't think at the time we were probably making a lot of domestic whiskeys here, especially in 1898. So it would have been either something we were getting through imports or maybe something that was just, kind of coming around at that time. And rye being a bigger crop back then, that is my guess. I don't know for sure. We'll have to maybe look into that for a future lobby bar episode as we, I just did a little mezcal and tequila just a couple weeks back on the lobby bar. Maybe we'll have to dig into whiskeys next time.
Ooh, I like it.
All right. Well, now that we have one of these mixed up, Michaela, let's go ahead. We will print out another couple of flags. We will stake our claim and we will try our darned best to make our way through The Departed with it making any sense. Maybe the rye whiskey will help us with that. I don't know. But let's do this. Let's take a quick break and we'll be right back to chat about this week's film, The Departed. The Departed.
When you decide to be something, you can be it. It's what they don't tell you in the church. When I was your age, they would say we could become cops or criminals. Today, what I'm saying is this. When you're facing a loaded gun, what's the difference?
Spoiler warning for The Departed. If you've not seen this film yet, you've had some time, because apparently this movie's almost 20 years old and I feel real old with that information in my back pocket. So thanks for that, Brian. But if
Yeah.
you've not seen The Departed, we're going to talk about it. And there's a lot that's going on. There's a lot of kind of thrills at the end. There's a lot of twists and turns. So do yourself a favor and go watch The Departed, because we're definitely not going to do it justice. And go fix yourself up a Ward 8 cocktail, because it's pretty delicious and a good, I don't know, a good nod, a good homage to the film that we're going to talk about. You've been warned. I've done my warning. There we go.
That was a very thorough warning, absolutely. And yeah, you have had quite a bit of time to see it. It came out in 2006, and as you might surmise, because this was directed by Martin Scorsese, a little long, so you'll need about 2.5 hours. That's about two Ward Eights worth there. So yeah, directed by Scorsese, his first Oscar win coming for this one, and it stars a lot of people, Michaela. So we'll go ahead and we'll start with Jack Nicholson, who's playing Costello, who's like the Irish like mob slash gang boss here in our story. We've got Leonardo DiCaprio and Matt Damon are playing our dueling moles between, Costello and the cops. So Matt Damon is playing Colin, officer there, and uh, Leonardo DiCaprio is playing Billy, who is kind of the mole underneath of Costello's organization there, working undercover. So, Michaela, this was a pretty big deal, as I mentioned. Kind of at the top. This was the winner of 4 Academy Awards. Thelma Schoonmaker, I'm not sure how to pronounce that. Schoonmaker, I think, for editing. William Monahan wins for the adapted screenplay. Martin Scorsese wins for Best Director, and then it also wins Best Picture. Mark Wahlberg, who also plays one of our police officers here by the name of Dignam, gets a nomination for Supporting Actor. So, The Departed, I assume you watched probably close to the time it came out with all the Oscar buzz and things. We would have been in our mid 20s then, so this was kind of the story that we would have been getting into probably.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I watched this when it came out. It's hard to believe that it was 2006. I watched this in the theater, and I only watched it once. But it has stuck with me. As we all know here at Drink the Movies, Brian does all the hard stuff and I do all the fun stuff, which is picking the movies. And so I was super excited. I was like, wow, we haven't done that one. That would be really cool. I had some ideas of what I wanted to do for a cocktail. I was like, this is going to be great. And I put it on there, and then I realized, man, I hadn't seen this movie in, I don't know, almost 20 years. It's
Right.
crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And it kind of feels the same way as a lot of Martin Scorsese films does to me in that way. And that it's like this crime noir thriller, lots of
Mm.
layers on it, right? That it's long. B. So, and then also like it has like it takes up like residency within yourself, but it's not something like that you'd put on to just watch periodically. Like same as you, Miguel. I don't think that I've probably watched this since like back when it first came out or got available to rent on DVD at the time. So I probably haven't seen it in like 20 years, but coming back to it was great. But it's just kind of like a lot of Scorsese stuff. It's just something you drop in like once a decade and revisit. Same with like Goodfellas. Like it seems like every 10 years I'll just like get a hankering to go back to that world.
Yeah.
So it's kind of the same way for me. And this one really brings you right in into that world of this of crime and corruption and corrupt police officers. And right from the start of the film, right, we're introduced to a character by the name of Costello, who is played by Jack Nicholson. He goes into it's like this like diner grocery shop kind of a thing, and he's there to collect some money, right, as all good mobsters are wont to do. And there's a young boy who's sitting there, and he kind of recognizes this kid, Colin, recognizes him from his family there around town. Tells the grocers to get this kid set up with some groceries and sends this kid on his way. And it seems like Colin is going to be forever indebted to dad, to Uncle Costello there, Jack Nicholson. I have to
Mm.
say, Michaela, before I turn this over to you, Mark Wahlberg, who we're going to talk about here in a minute, gets nominated for supporting actor. Why wasn't Jack Nicholson nominated for supporting actor? He is excellent in this film.
He is excellent in this film. This was tough, man. This was one of those where I think everybody did an amazing job, even in the quote unquote bit parts, right? Like, I thought Ralston as Timothy Delahunt, who's kind of one of Costello's guys, and he becomes kind of a key part towards the end. He was amazing. I even thought, let's see, one of my favorite. It was Anthony Anderson. He's like in the
Mhm.
role. He's in the movie maybe 8 minutes of the whole movie, which is not a lot of time considering how long this movie is. And I thought he was amazing as well. I mean, like everybody just did a really good job. So I don't know, but I have to say, Mark Wahlberg, man, he impressed me. This is the film for me where he went from being Marky Mark
Mhm.
to like
Mhm.
a
Mhm.
real actor. He'd been in the remake of Planet of the Apes, and I was like, okay, All right. That's not bad. I mean, look, he's a good actor. I was like, that's fine. But this movie completely changed the way I thought about him as an artiste. In this trifecta of he can sing, he can act, he's a rapper, he's does all this other this solidified it for me. Whereas versus Jack Nicholson, everybody knows he's a genius, right? I mean,
Right.
he's awesome. He's especially awesome in this though.
Especially awesome in this. Yeah, and I really like the way it kind of sets you up there, with Costello taking kind of the tutelage of this kid, right? Very malleable. Presumably, in this particular section of Boston, everyone is a little bit, kind of downtrodden. It's very like working class sort of neighborhood. So he, kind of takes him under his wing, and then it fast forwards then several years, I guess probably, I don't know, 10, 12 years, something like that, and we are seeing like a police graduation, right? All the police cadets, and you really kind of know that it is Colin at this point because it ends with this very, very like close up on, young Colin's very bright blue eyes. And then it transitions, to Matt Damon's very bright blue eyes. So we see now that he is a graduate from this police academy. I believe that he makes a phone call pretty much right off the bat to good old Costello there. So you know that this probably is not going to be above board here for Colin on that. And I think, Costello even kind of says something at the beginning, that something along the lines. I don't remember the line, but basically, can groom this kid. It can go. Maybe you could send him to like law school or any of these things because he really wants a man on the inside. So we've got graduates there. We've also got another police cadet by the name of Billy, who's being played by Leonardo DiCaprio, and we're kind of immediately thrust into this world of the corruption here, I guess, on this level of the police department. I guess it's the state police of Massachusetts.
Right. Yeah, I love this because he just, I mean, Leonardo DiCaprio is amazing, right? He goes in and he actually has a conversation, builds kind of a friendship in the academy with Anthony Anderson's character, right? Trooper Brown.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
but he immediately gets picked up. Like he's halfway through, he's like a month in or something, and he gets picked up by Martin Sheen's character, who's Captain Charlie Queenan, and then Mark Wahlberg, who's Staff Sergeant Dignam, and they take him into this office, and it's real interesting to me how they kind of good cop, bad cop Billy Costigan to kind of join them because they're like, look, you're not actually a cop. You come from a really bad family. A bunch of people in his family, including like his uncle. His uncle is part of the business. His father might have been part of the business. They kind of hint that they knew that he worked at the airport, but he was something else. And we all know what that means.
Hmm.
They're like, you're not a cop. What are you doing? And he has no family left. Everybody that he actually loved and cared about is all dead. And so I really like that opening scene between Queenan and Dignam because Queenan is like the dad character, right? He's the good cop.
Right.
He's like, are you getting enough food? Are you okay? And Mark Wahlberg is just like, F you, man. F this whole thing. You're not an effing cop. Like he's so horrible and indignant, and you're just like, you want to
Yeah.
smack him. But he also is doing it I mean, his heart's in the right place, right? And he's doing it to really test where Costigan's heart lies. Like, does he want to be a cop or does he just want to look like a cop? Because if he wants to do like real good work as a cop and actually affect change, he's gonna have to be part of their group. And as part of that group, they kind of ruin his life. They're like, we're gonna kick you out of the Stadies. You're not gonna finish. We're gonna have to give you jail time because
Yeah.
we got to make you look totally believable. And then you got to spend some time getting in with these bad folks like Jack Nicholson's group, the Costello family. You're
Hmm.
gonna have to figure that out. And are you up for it, or do you just want to go like be a cop? Because that's cool too.
because that's cool too. Yeah, I love yeah, Dignam is just yelling at him throughout this whole thing, right? Being very antagonistic, and Billy keeps looking over at Queen, and he's like, are you serious with this guy? Why is this guy yelling at me? Can I talk to you like you're the adult in the room?" And yeah, it just kind of goes back and forth, and yeah, gets kicked off of the force, right? Sent to prison, and that basically wipes his slate clean, so now he can commit to this life of crime as kind of an undercover agent, so to speak, for this special task force, headed up by Queen in there. I like then he gets out of prison and he goes, and I think he's working with like his uncle or his uncle maybe, or no, his cousin Sean,
Yeah.
who seems to be kind of like an idiot, very low level, kind of criminal thug doing some robberies and things like that. And Billy's going to go along with him for a couple of times until eventually he catches the eye of Costello and also Mr. French, who's played by Ray Winstone there, who kind of sees this kid and is like, this kid seems, pretty smart, washed out of the cops. Maybe he could be an asset for us, an ally. But you're gonna have to stop running around with cousin Sean. That guy's an idiot. Don't do that.
Yeah.
You want to be one of us. And then, kind of one of the more visceral scenes, at least here, kind of early on, is they gotta test Billy a couple times, right? So Billy's being antagonized, smashes a glass of cranberry juice into this bar patron's face. You do that. You beat people up at the convenience store. You break your hand. You have to go and get a cast on. But what does Costello do to prove your mettle, Michaela?
He's gonna break it multiple times again using a
Just
shoe
just
on
keep
a
breaking
pool
it
table,
with a shoe.
just as a torture device to have him scream that he's not a cop, which is interesting because he's not lying. He's like, I am not a cop, right? Like it's definitely like an espionage of the city of Boston kind of thing, right? Because
Hmm.
if he gets found out, like the cops aren't gonna, I mean, the state police are not going to say, oh yeah, he's one of us for sure. Like, nope, not at all. They're going to hang him out to dry. So it's really a tough scene. It's tough to watch again because you're just like, man, this poor kid is like ruining his life. You hope it goes really well for him somehow, and that he doesn't end up getting killed. Because it's already like his hand looked like it may never be the same. And of course it's a movie. So, he goes and gets it looked at and it ends up healing fine. But you just think that it's real bad, but it gives you just a snippet of what Frank Costello is capable of doing.
Hmm.
He has no compuncture about killing people, and making them swim with the fishes, as it were.
That's right. Yeah. Costello does, throw down a stack of cash there for Billy to go back to the hospital and get his hand taken care of. So I guess good there. But yeah, throughout kind of the whole thing, Billy is like, this guy is nuts. They're going to find me out. They're going to kill me. So Queenan, could I get a little bit of a little bit of help cover here? He's constantly wanting to get pulled out. I do like Scorsese does a really good job of highlighting the fact that every time Billy is calling in to Queenan or Dignam, that he is changing like the SIM card in his phone, which is something that people would have to do, I guess, to cover your tracks a little bit better, to kind of set up the fact that can't just use the phone willy-nilly throughout the later course of the film here. But yeah, basically wanting to get out, wanting to get out. Let's talk about Colin a little bit here in his role in the Massachusetts State Police. Right, he is under the tutelage of I guess it's Captain Ellerby, who's played by Alec Baldwin there. They're set up there on a task force to basically, surveil and bring to justice Costello, the Costello family, the Costello, mob gang, whatever it is. And the whole time you just see Colin there, played by Matt Damon, just kind of, snickering at the fact that, I can tip this guy off, right? He's the man on the inside for his dad, who he keeps referring to him as every time that he's calling on him. But Colin's a really interesting cat in the police department, because he always kind of knows what's going on. He's able to, kind of do a really good job of leading the police, kind of adjacent to where they need to be. Pretty good mole, Colin.
Yeah. Yeah, but not without its prices, right? So I really loved Matt Damon's acting in this, because there were layers that I don't know if I picked up as much the first time watching it as I did this most recent time. He He seems like a guy full of confidence. He's got this friend who is kind of going through all the motions the same way that he is, only Colin is getting, promoted really quickly. And he's like, hey man, I'll put in a good word for you, that kind of thing. He seems really confident. He meets Madeline, Dr. Madeline Madden. She's a psychiatrist. And I love their first interaction. He likes her. He likes her immediately. He lets her know he likes her. He is like, I'll shoot somebody right now if it gets me another hour with you. Like, when are we having dinner? I mean, he's just very outgoing and like super confident, right? But that is a really big hard shell, and he talks about it himself where he's like, I'm Irish, so like you're not going to get inside me, like and so even with Madeline, they have a night where I guess things don't go as well as he would like them to, performance wise, if you know what I'm saying. And she's trying to talk to him about it. She's like, hey, you shouldn't feel bad. Like that's actually not a big deal. And he completely blanks her. He will not even acknowledge that she's saying these things. He's drinking his coffee and he's like, I got to go to work. And so not as all well within Colin, right? There's definitely some inner demons or something inside him that is not 100% confident, not 100% sure of himself. But I love the dichotomy because at the beginning, you're almost rooting for him, even though he is totally like helping Frank Costello commit all of these crimes. He knows everything, and he's giving him the scoop so that Frank stays safe. And so he's not the one you want to be rooting for, but yeah,
he's definitely not the one you want to be rooting for. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you see him tip him off a couple of times, right? He'll call and tell him to not use any of your phones because they're surveilling the phones. He'll tell him where the security cameras are on these things. He'll get a little bit of information from Costello, just enough to kind of propel himself up through, because he's definitely a fast riser here in this instance, and he goes pretty quickly from being on this team that is surveilling Costello to basically being put in charge of the unit that is meant to suss out the rat in the department, who is himself, which is a pretty good job, I guess, if you're being the rat. I want to talk about him and Madeline just a minute. He meets Madeline on the elevator there, brimming with confidence. I have to say, though, if I was on the elevator with him, because he just holds the door open for like 5 minutes so he can hit on Madeline. If I'm in the elevator, I'm pushing him out. I'm like, do that outside, guy. I got places to go. I need to get off this elevator. Get me off this elevator. So we get kind of that confident bit, but as you mentioned, still kind of insecure in itself. It's like Will Hunting goes to police school, to night school there, coming out. But the relationship continues to evolve, right? Colin and Madeline end up moving in together and things, but you see some definite cracks, right? Because Madeline is kind of tuned in with the police force, right? That's what she does. She's a psychiatrist for these officers, who need to go speak with her to, for whatever the case is. So she can definitely kind of see some cracks here in Colin's armor, and she's seeing some cracks in Billy's armor too, because he has had about enough of this. He's like, I have been too close to dying. They're going to shoot me in the head. I don't want to do this anymore.
right.
Please, can you give me some help? Can you give me some drugs? And I really like the very first interaction we get with Billy then, when he goes to her office then to basically call for help, right? And he's like, you need to give me something, because I'm going to lose my mind. So you're either going to help me, or I'm going to end up with this gun in my mouth. What are you going to do, Madeline? And she decides that she's going to play the role of helper and confidant of Billy, which is really interesting then, because you have
Yeah.
these two opposite characters on opposite sides of the team that are on the opposing team that they're supposed to be playing for, and they share kind of this communal link within Madeline, both from a psychiatry standpoint, and also a physical intimate standpoint.
Right. Yeah, I love that scene because she's going through the motions of talking to him and it's their very first meeting, and he basically kind of psychoanalyzes her. They have this conversation about truth telling and lying, and she's like, yeah, people lie to keep an even keel. That she says that multiple times throughout the movie, right? People have reasons to lie, and he's like, nah, yeah, I'm not sleeping, I'm feeling bad, like I threw up on the way here. He like goes after her in a sense that it's very antagonistic, but she she doesn't respond the way that I originally thought she was going to respond, right? She
Hmm.
immediately like follows him. She's like, here's a prescription. I'm going to transfer you to somebody else. I don't, I, because he shook her. Which
Hmm.
I think if you're going to be in that line of business, you have to be pretty unshakable. And so the fact that
Right.
they immediately form this connection that ends up being so much deeper to me watching this than her connection with Colin, who it's clear that he is infatuated with her, right? But he's very much like, I'm gonna take you to this French restaurant. I'm gonna show off. I'm gonna bitch about the fact that they don't have duck l'orange at this
Right.
French place. I'm gonna, and Costigan, he tells her she's basically full of crap, and she's not interested in helping him because he is in his own version of hell, and he could really use some sleeping pills so he could just get some rest at night. and the difference in her emotional reaction is amazing. Vera Farmiga, I'd never seen her before,
Hmm.
but this film totally turned me on to her, and now everything she's in I go watch because her reaction to both of these characters is so foreign to me. It's not necessarily how I would react.
Hmm.
And so, but it was still really relatable, if that makes sense. Like it was different than me, but at the same time, I was fascinated by these choices that she was making. And it turns out that Costigan, he continues to see Madeline even though she's not his therapist, and she even goes around to say, it's okay that you're coming to me as a friend, because I'm not your therapist anymore. So you're kind of it's okay. Don't stop coming to me until you need to stop coming to me.
Yeah, don't stop coming to me. I like she writes him the prescription, and Billy asks her, is this enough for me to kill myself? And she's like, I don't know. And that's kind of the relationship that they have. It's like a mutual trust and like a respect of the honesty, I think, that they're both getting from each other, as opposed to the life of distrust and deflection and things that she's experiencing within Colin. So let's talk about that a little bit here, Billy and Colin, because as we mentioned, they are on the opposite sides, on the opposite teams that they're supposed to be on, and they're going head to head. Some things happen within the film as basically we see Costello just kind of going through the motions of being this mob boss. There is the big particular sting that they are trying to get a hold of, because maybe like the weak point in the movie for me is that he's stolen a bunch of like SIM cards or something, or
Microprocessors, yeah.
microprocessors for like nuclear warheads that he's selling to the Chinese, which seems a little crazy. I think it could have dumbed that down to maybe just some sort of like big drug thing or gun thing. I think that would have played a little bit better. It feels very
Mm.
sensational, I think, for the rest of the story, but basically that's kind of the big part of it, right? Is these microprocessors that they're doing, and that's kind of the crux of the big crime that's trying to be committed, and that's going to really pit Billy and Colin against each other.
Yeah, I really I thought that too, and then I thought about it again, and I think I know why they did that. Because this was in 2006, and there
Hmm.
is a line in the movie that thanks God for the Patriot Act, and that's how they were able
Hmm.
to
Hmm. Hmm.
do all of this stuff, because this is totally illegal, right? Or at least it was up until the Patriot Act, which basically said if you can tie somebody's behavior to any sort of international terrorism,
Hmm.
we can find out everything about them that is supposed to be like privately held information. Like we can figure it all out, and we have open
Yeah,
access to all of that. And so
that
that to me was why they did it. I agree. I'm like, okay,
that's a fair point, but you could have made that same argument about running guns through
sure,
Boston for
sure.
someone, or drugs or something. I think I would have liked that. Like I said, it just seemed a little bit
Yeah,
sensational, and like it didn't even like dwell on it other than like the one meeting that they had with the
right.
with the Chinese that Colin tipped him off to. But yeah, I digress. I digress. That's kind of the main crux of the investigation, what that's going to. But really, the movie is about Billy and Colin, and kind of this cat and mouse back and forth kind of thing, as the noose is tightening around Billy. Right, Costello gets more and more paranoid about there being a rat on his team. You've got Mr. French there, who's being more and more paranoid about that. The rest of the crew is getting a little bit more paranoid, even down to the fact that they're having to write down their God-given names, and social security numbers and bank accounts and things to turn in to Colin, who's on the other side. And, he's feeling the noose tighten around himself, even though he's the one really kind of tracking himself. It's becoming ever apparent to Queen and Dignam that something is not quite right on their end of the spectrum either.
Right. It's interesting how both of the leaders of these quote unquote gang, right? We have Jack Nicholson's Frank Costello, and then we have Alec Baldwin's Captain George Ellerby, right? Who has a great Boston accent, by the way. But like both of them, the way they react to having a mole is very different.
Right.
But the Dignam and Queenan are like, hey, we got to protect our guys. And they're adamant. And this is when you start to like love the fact that Mark Wahlberg's character is so acerbic and like aggressive and like not taking any crap from anybody, because everybody keeps asking them. They're like, hey, it would really help us out if you could tell us who your people are. And he's like, absolutely not. And he's like, maybe not. Go F yourself. Like, I'm not doing any of this. Nope. You're not going to ever get your hands on my guys, because he knows better than almost anybody what will happen if the people on the inside get found out. And I really love that the way that you, as a watcher of this, your feelings towards Sergeant Dignan changes. You think he might be a really tough guy to deal with, and he might be no fun and like acting like a petulant child with like F-bombs a plum, right? But at the end of the day, he is like, I would die for all of these people that are doing this job, because he's not there to do it. He's not there, right? So I really love that. And I love that it kind of comes to a head in one of these scenes where Costigan is seeing that he's about to get found out, something is amiss, and they end up going to this old building. He meets Captain Queenan, who's played by Martin Sheen, and there's this really amazing relationship between the two of them, because Martin Sheen's character, again, he's like the dad, right? Like earlier in the movie, Billy Costigan shows up at his house.
He's President Josiah Bartlett.
That's
West Wing. It just
right.
ended. He was, yeah.
Yeah, and you got this love for him, and he's like talking about his son, and you get this. He's like, "Yeah, we gotta figure out a way to get you out of here." But they go to this old, this really old building, and they go up to the top level, and Queenan and Costigan are trying to talk things through, and it looks like Costello's tipped off to this because, of course, Sullivan has told them where they are. So Leonardo DiCaprio's character is getting these phone calls from people giving them an address saying, hey, where are you? You need to show up at this place because we found the mole. We're going down. It's all going down. And it turns into the first of two really like pinnacle moments in the film where you're just on the edge of your seat for a good like 10 minutes watching this whole thing unfold. And it's really hard. It's really hard because Costello Queenan helps Costigan escape. He's like, look, you got to get out of this way. You got to take the fire escape. I'll handle it. And Queenan knows absolutely that this is not going to go well for him. He like does a sign of the cross, which I had missed the first time I watched this. He like gets out a cigarette. He's probably thinking like, I should call my kid. I should call my wife. What am I going to do? And yet, when the Costello's men arrive to shake him down, he gives them a whole lot of nothing, and they don't like that. And so what do? They throw him over the side. And it's so, oh my gosh, it's one of those moments in the first time in cinematic history for me where it was like, no one is safe because he was such a good guy. And you were like, oh no. And Billy like runs out. He finally gets down the fire escape and he's running away, and he literally like runs right in front of his body. It's so visceral and awful.
Yeah, exactly. And it's illustrative, that no one is safe. It illustrates to Colin, who is, basically ordered Queenan to be followed, which, ends up costing, Queenan his life. There are great stakes, beyond, making sure that Costello doesn't get arrested for doing this, right? Like there are very high stakes for this. I mentioned, kind of that Costello's crew had to write down their names and numbers. That's going to be kind of the pinnacle of our close scrape between Billy and Colin, as Billy is following this envelope that he has corrected the spelling on to see who Costello is giving that envelope to, and it leads to an adult theater, and then he is kind of seeing Colin from the back, but neither of them get a good look at each other as they kind of go through the streets there. I love Colin the next morning is in like first thing, or he goes straight to the police department to look at the street cam to see if he can get an ID on Billy here, but that's a near scrape. But luckily that envelope's going to come back up around, right? And that's eventually going to be what leads to the ultimate tip off is, problem solved, I guess. Costello ends up going. Colin is not able to thwart this effort too much as they're kind of going to this kind of final, gunfight, showdown here, sort of a thing, and we get kind of at least finally a face-to-face interaction with Costello and Colin. This is the first time that we've seen them together since that very opening scene, right? As he was a child, and kind of from day one of this relationship to the last day here down at the docks or at the warehouse. I don't know exactly where they're at, but we find out, Michaela, that not only is Billy a mole here in Costello's organization, not only is Colin a mole here for the Massachusetts State Police, Costello was a mole too the whole time.
The whole time. And that, I think, really is something that Sullivan just didn't see coming. He's not as cunning. He's a smart guy, Sullivan, but he just doesn't. He trusted him, I think, a little too much, which I find interesting because Costello basically was really open with the fact that he thought about this 20 years. This was a sting that was 20 years in the making, right? And so Sullivan's like, I can't believe you're an FBI informant. What the what? And he's like, yeah, of course I am, man. Like, what do you expect? And at the end of the day, when you think about this was such a good film because you had everybody and their own motivations and their own their reasons why, right? And at the end of the day, Sullivan was in it for himself, and he figures out a way to, shoot and kill, mortally wound Costello, and then use it as his own turnabouts of, I'm being a hero and I'm this and I'm that. And because he doesn't believe in what they're doing enough, obviously, right? He doesn't believe in that enough to die for it. At the end of the day, Sullivan is all about himself.
Well, and I mean, it speaks to Colin's, kind of survivalist mindset that he probably, learned along the lines from Costello, right? Because Costello was an FBI informant, and Colin's main crux of that then is, did you tell them about me? Are you going to tell them about me? Because my life is ruined and over if this gets out that I've been working for you the whole time. Right.
That's the piece of it that I find so interesting because there's no way to get the blood off your hands, right? Like, he's not going to be able to turn around and say, oh yeah, I was helping, but not really helping. I was like a double agent. Like there's just no good way that this is going to happen. And Sullivan gets really lucky here. And there's another time where he gets a little bit lucky later in the film, but he's not gonna go down for any of this stuff. He's like, and he becomes, it's a cowardly thing to do, right? Where he doesn't trust Costello enough to say, okay, well, how are we going to do this together? He just kills him. And then he's like, and I'm going to collect this medal. And it's going to be fine. His relationship with Madeline has kind of progressed. There's talk of a wedding, but you don't see a ring on her finger. So I don't know what's going on with that. But she is kind of in the background as all of this is unfolding. And she's like, hey, something's not right. And he's like, I can't talk to you about everything that I do. And she's like, but you should be able to, because I'm your partner, like in life, like maybe not everything, but you can talk to me emotionally. And that's when she, kind of reveals that she's pregnant. And he's like super excited about that. But it's kind of this weird, I don't know, it's just kind of a weird kind of situation for Sullivan because he, in one fell swoop, he's like completely changed what he's done. And now he goes from serving Costello and hiding from Madeline, all of these things about Costello, to trying to self-serve himself. And that's when things really start to fall apart.
Yeah, that's when things definitely start to fall apart because now that Costello is out of the picture, Billy can come out from being undercover there and does so. He goes back to the office. He knows obviously that Queenan is been killed, right? Thrown off that building. But Dignam has been put on administrative leave, right? For having a bit of a showdown there with Sergeant Ellerby, Lieutenant Ellerby,
Captain. Yeah.
Captain Ellerby. There. So he's not there for the there anymore. And Colin has basically taken over that role, right? Overseeing kind of that department now. Very fast mover Colin is in this. So when Billy turns up to basically I guess turn himself in or be like, okay, I'm done now. Can I be back? Can I be a police officer again? Or can I get my pay, my bonus for doing all this stuff? And he's having
Yeah.
this chat with Colin, and Colin is instantly very very suspicious about this character, and Billy about that time sees that envelope that he'd written on there on the desk. So at this point, they're kind of both found out, right? Basically, they kind of know who each other are at this moment, which is going to prompt Billy to do a couple of things, right? He sends a bot, or he sends a recording that's a phone recording that Costello had made of Colin. He sends that to Colin, which gets found out by Madeline. There, it's a really powerful scene where she's listening to this very very fancy stereo system. Apparently, it pays pretty good there. The Massachusetts State Police Department there's
Mhm.
very fancy stereos. So she is finding out the truth here about Colin. And then Billy's also going to go and kind of confirm this with her. Basically, he gives her this envelope and is like, open this in 2 weeks. Or if you haven't heard from me, right? Or if I
Right.
call you to tell you to open this, open it. And if I don't do that, then open this in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So he gives her this envelope, and he puts kind of this final plot into action, right? He calls Colin and is like, "Listen, guy, we need to talk about this. Maybe we could work something out. I don't know. Meet me on that building where Queenan died. That seems like a good place to have our
Yeah.
final showdown here."
Yeah. I mean, so I want to talk about that, but before I want to kind of close the door, I guess, between Madeline and Costigan, because Billy goes to see her a couple of times, and there is one time where they end up kind of consummating that relationship, and it's very this relationship is in hard contrast to the relationship that Madeline is having with Colin Sullivan, right?
Mhm.
This one is much more. It feels much more visceral. It feels like there is this, like you said, this mutual trust and connection
It
that they
feels more
have, where
authentic.
much more authentic, right? Whereas Colin and her is like, hey, we both like what we're seeing in each other, kind of figuratively. We both kind of, kind of like what each other can give each other, because it makes sense. Like, I'm this rising sergeant. I'm, you're this psychiatrist. Like, we both are on the same sides. We could have this great life together. It seems to kind of fit. But she talks very openly about how she is lying to Colin, because she should not be having. I mean, she's just having like lunch with Billy Costigan, and she's like, "Oh yeah, if he saw me right now, I would totally lie," because she knows within herself that she
Mhm.
is not feeling the way that she should be feeling
Right.
towards this character. And so they have this physical relationship, but then she says, "Look, I really can't do that anymore. I can't be a friend to you." And I really love the way that it's so muted and understated, the way that they have that conversation. And then when Billy goes to give her the envelope and says, "Look, if something happens to me or I call you, this is for you. Don't open it until I tell you." And then she wants to tell him something. And he's like, "Look, you think about it real hard. And if you want to tell me in 2 weeks." And so she doesn't ever get to tell him what it is she's going to tell him. Right.
Mhm.
And you don't realize until way later what she was probably going to tell him. And we'll get to that part. But I just love the way that this all kind of comes to a head when she gets on that fancy stereo and she can hear Colin talking to Frank Costello, and Colin lays it out. He's like, "I'm real good at lying. That's why you hired me, and brought me under your
Mhm.
wing 20 years ago, because I've been doing that for, years." And she's like, so angry and so upset. And she's like, "I'm the one who thought that I was the liar. I thought that I was the horrible person in this relationship. And it's nothing compared to what you've done and the betrayal that you have done, not just to her, but to like society in general, right? And
to society, to everyone. Yeah.
to everybody. And so she's like done. She is done with Sullivan. I mean, it's great. And then of course he's like, I gotta, and then, you know, he gets on the call with Billy Costigan and he's like, meet me on that rooftop, which sounds really like a bad place to meet. I'm just saying, not a good idea.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe they needed to reuse that scene because they'd spent so much money on the building. I don't know the ins and outs of that, but not a good idea.
We have the building for the day. I mean, it was an abandoned building, so I guess that's a as good a place as any to go. But yeah, Billy goes there. He sets a bit of a trap for Colin, right? He's there, gun drawn, when Colin comes up there and ends up holding him at gunpoint. We basically wanting him to to give him his bonus and to get out of there, right? To you know, cut ties. We'll be done. You know, just let this go, let this go. But Anthony Anderson's character, Brown, what's his name? He's something Brown.
Trooper Brown.
Trooper
He
Brown.
didn't have a first name. Yep.
He didn't have a first name. Yeah, Trooper Brown shows up about that time, right? Because he's followed Colin there, and he recognizes Billy, right, from their days in the academy. And Billy's laying it out for him. He's like, listen, you know who I am. Trust me, I'm going to take him, and I'm just arresting him. I'm going to take him down to the station, and everything's going to be revealed then. And you know, Trooper Brown is kind of watching on. He's kind of got the gun drawn down on them, but he's, you know, he's listening to Billy's words. He's kind of believing that something is going on. He knew that there was some corruption. He knew that there was a rat, and very well could be Colin. So he's going to let him go, and they end up kind of backing their way onto an elevator, and Trooper Brown's going to have to take the stairs, and that's kind of when I think The Departed really kind of, I guess, cements itself in terms of this crime noir thriller sort of a thing, because that elevator door opens. Billy and Colin are in there, and another police officer is going to come up about that time, gun drawn, and you know, get Colin out of a bind. And kind of the brilliant bit about this is that he shoots Billy in the head. Billy is dead now, and Colin, thanks him and says something, and the other officer, I don't remember his name, is like, "You didn't think you were Costello's only rat, right?"
Yeah, yeah. You're not that special.
And it turns out that all of the bad deeds, all of the crimes committed, all of the lies, this whole life that Colin had led up until that point, was turned out to be, completely fabricated by Costello. He wasn't important at all to this guy.
No, he wasn't. And going down that elevator, it's a really kind of beautiful breakage where you see Colin finally completely break down, and he's like, just kill me, and Billy Costigan is like, I am killing you, until the doors open and Billy Costigan gets shot in the head. Like, it is so shocking. I think I screamed in the theater. I think I did. And I was so upset because poor Billy, like, he didn't have a chance. You knew this wasn't going to go well at the very beginning, and probably Sergeant Dignan and Captain Queenan knew it too. And they just took him, this poor kid who had nobody and nothing, and they were like, we're going to use you. Like, and how different is that than Frank Costello, who used all these other people to continue to build crimes? Like, who's really, like, they're both horrible here, right? Is what I felt after this. And then, of course, it was like, no one is safe because your main character, the one that you've been rooting for this whole time, dies. And it's so fast. I mean, it is so quickly, where this whole universe of a human is just gone. It was really, really shaking as a young 25-year-old watching this film in the theater. So, of course, Trooper Barrington, who's the one who shoots him, like, it makes that comment, like, you didn't think you were the only one, right? Hello. And which is interesting because Billy Costigan finds out that he was also not the only mole, right? Like, they both have this, like, very parallel, these things happen in their lives. But Sullivan, he's not going to let this go, and he's not going to let anybody else have an opportunity to one up him. He figures out a way to both shoot Trooper Brown and Trooper Barrington, and make it look like they're the ones who were the moles the whole time. I don't quite know how he does that because I was watching like what did he do with all the guns and the bullets, and I'm sure some of that probably didn't go as planned, but this is a movie. So, but I mean, of course he's like, I just want to go on record and, recommend Billy Costigan for the Medal of Honor because they found out the truth that he was actually a cop. And,
Mhm.
they have this whole big, beautiful funeral. And of course, Madeline is there and will not speak to Colin at all. He keeps asking her to talk to him. He's like, what about the baby? And she has this face, and that's when or at least I knew, that what she wanted to tell Billy Costigan was that she was pregnant with his baby.
Mhm.
And she was pretty sure it was his, and that she was willing to give all of that up because she knew what she wanted at the end. And it's so heartbreaking. Oh my
Yeah.
God.
It's a pretty rough. It's pretty rough. Yeah, and they go then from the funeral. We follow Colin back home. You see him. He has kind of this interaction with his neighbors, and his neighbors are very standoffish about it for whatever reason. And he kind of fumbles with his door and ends up. And just as quickly as Billy met his demise in that elevator, he opens the door and Colin meets his demise too. Bullet to the head straight away there. Drops the grocery bag, and then we pan over, and it's Dignam, Mark Wahlberg, standing there, having pulled the trigger. So you could only surmise then that Madeline had that secret that she was intending to tell Billy. We can only surmise, at least I think, probably that envelope says something along the lines of, "If you don't hear from me or I call you, find Dignam and let him know what happened." And Dignam is going to go and seek his revenge, then presumably, I guess, for the death of Queen Anne and just for the betrayal of everything that Dignam had held dear. Then we pan from the dead body of Colin up to the fire escape. We see a rat run across the fire escape in front of the New York City skyline, and that ends The Departed.
So it does. I loved that end scene though. I mean, it's so well done because I guess Sergeant Dignan, he's got like booties on because he's real smart and he's
Hmm.
probably been planning for this moment. He's like, I'm going to find that rat, especially once Queen Anne is dead. He's like, I'm going to find him and I'm going to make sure that he doesn't get through. He doesn't make it through this. And Colin finally he like drops his groceries and he's like, okay, like he's just done. He's like, that's fine. And
Yep.
so yeah, it the shot at the end is really uh I found it almost tongue in cheek, right? Because we see this rat crawling on the rail, and you got
Yeah.
that the
It's a
the
little
the
on the nose. A little
Massachusetts,
on the nose. Or yeah, New
yeah,
York. I said New York City skyline. Yeah, Massachusetts. Or
yeah,
that's
it's
the state
this,
building, right? Yeah.
yeah, with the beautiful gold top. Really interesting to me because again, this story is like who is worse, right? Like we say that the staties and the State Department was doing this for the greater good, but they didn't know that Frank Costello was an informant for the FBI. But it makes so much sense. Like it was all this like ruse.
Hmm.
And while they're trying to quote unquote make their case, a bunch of people are being killed and a bunch of businesses are being impacted and a bunch of horrible crimes are being committed, and it just keeps going and keeps going and keeps going because we're all in it for the quote unquote greater good versus Frank Costello's group is doing the same thing basically. So which one's worse? I don't know. I found this film to be so impactful to me in that way, and really showing both sides and how neither one is necessarily better than the other,
Hmm.
which is an unpopular opinion because you want to be supportive of your law enforcement in general. You want to believe that the good guys are good and the bad guys are bad and the good guys win. And in many cases, at least in this show, it's depicted that the good guys aren't real good and the bad guys, they're all real bad. So pick your poison. I don't know.
That's right. Yeah, there's many shades of gray in this one, for sure, and it's a great film. It comes together really well. The acting performances are top notch. The writing is really great. There's some beautiful camera work of in and around the city, and the way these crimes are being portrayed and relayed. You get a lot of like kind of that mid like 2000s technology and like the CCTV stuff that they're watching and the way that they're using, computers to look at this footage and the way that cell phones are working. So it'd be a different story if it was being told today, I think, at least a little bit, but really, really good. So I think we did a pretty good job of kind of going through the relationships there, but there's a lot of other layers to this film that makes it worth your time. So if you haven't seen it or you haven't seen it in a long time, definitely go back and watch it, and definitely mix yourself up a Ward 8 or have a cranberry juice. Your prerogative there while you're watching this one, and let us know what you think about The Departed. So let us know all those things. Send pictures of your cocktails if you have another Departed cocktail. If you've been to a really rad bar in Boston, let us know all that stuff. You can do it on our social medias. It's at Drink the Movies on Instagram and X and Threads and Blue Sky, and Facebook.com/Drink the Movies. If you want to see pictures of our cocktail, episode recaps, recipes, links to the store, all that stuff can be found on our website, which is www.drinkthemovies.com. And if you want more bonus content, some behind the scenes stuff, extra episodes, hangouts, all that stuff, you can do that on our Patreon. It's patreon.com/Drink the Movies. We appreciate our patrons over there. They let us do a lot of fun stuff, like talk about Mad Max, the original Mad Max. That's going to be coming everyone's way here very soon. So go take a look at Patreon if you want to do that and support the podcast. But the best way to support the podcast is really, just sharing us out there, word of mouth. That helps a lot. Reviews, ratings, all that stuff helps too. So, Michaela, where can they go do that?
You can find us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify and Nearpods, anywhere where Spotify podcasts are supported and distributed. If you're listening to us right now, I bet if you look hard on your little rectangle, there is a subscribe button. I say this every time, but you should, if you're liking what you're hearing, go ahead and press that button because you'll get us twice a week. And we're a lot of fun. We think so anyway. And if you really like us, tell a friend, put us, there's a way to give us ratings. If you have feedback on a movie that we haven't covered or a drink you think we have missed or something that you're interested in learning about in a lobby bar, like, I don't know what the difference is between tequila and mezcal, like we did last week. Send us a note. We would love, we love this community, and it is because of all of you that this community even exists. We're just two people who like to talk about movies and drinks. So it's really because of you that we get to do it. So thanks so much.
That's right. Absolutely. So with that, I think that's going to wrap it up for The Departed. Michaela, it was a good one to go back to. Maybe we'll have to throw some other Scorsese on the to-do list here now that we've got a taste for it. We did The Martian too. That's going to come out someday maybe. So I don't know. With that, Michaela, I think that's going to wrap it up for this one. Thank you so much to everyone for joining us, and we'll talk to you next time on
Drink
the Movies.
The Movies. Honestly, though, if some guy left a door open for me, an elevator door open for me for 2 minutes just to get my card, I mean,
yeah.
I mean, that's the problem, is that you, as a girl, you think you want that until you meet Billy Costigan, and then you're like, never mind.
It's Matt Damon and Leo. I guess they're quite the picks, I suppose.
I suppose.